So I was gonna have a yard sale today. I was gonna get a space in a swap meet. They have yard sale spaces for $12 because I live in the ass crack of nowhere. Which is why I have so much gear in the back of my car right now. It's a lot of musical instruments I don't have space for or don't play anymore. But that ended up not working for reasons, and so instead we're gonna make a video today. First we're gonna get coffee. Actually, we have to get coffee and drive around for half an hour because I need to recalibrate my tire pressure sensors because one of my tires got low, etc., etc. I had to teach my mom the secrets of the air compressor. It's all good. Hello, and welcome back to my bedroom. I have been wanting to do this video for a while, but it's going to be kind of messy because I have to figure out where on earth I'm going to film looping, because you can't see it, but you've probably noticed in some other videos the rest of this room is a disaster. I was gonna have a yard sale to get rid of a bunch of stuff I don't use and maybe make the room less of a disaster, but that didn't fucking work this week. I'm annoyed about that. I shouldn't be as annoyed as I am, but here we are again. It's always such a pleasure. So today we're gonna be talking about live looping. I should have researched this more, but we sure didn't do that. But that's okay. Me not knowing what I'm talking about has never stopped me before, and it will not stop me this time. So, live looping involves recording a phrase, which then repeats, and then you add music on top of it to build a song cumulatively without needing additional backing tracks or instruments. That's not exclusively what live looping is, just by playing new pieces over a loop or a series of loops. Let's play a game where we count how many times I do this in this video. I have this one, which is the first looping pedal I got, and I said, oh boy, I like this a lot, so then I got this motherfucker. That is the Boss RC50 loop station. It's actually kind of obsolete. The proper one to get is the Boss RC300 looping pedal, but this was $200, and the RC300 is about $600. So I will buy obsolete technology if it means that I get to save $250 for something that's very similar. It's not as good, but it's very similar. The main difference between these two is how you compose the song. We're going to go into how you actually input data into this in a little bit, but you have to understand that these two, the reason I wanted this one, I should not be holding this with my screwed up hand, and I should also have my hand brace on. For those of you keeping track at home, my hand's all messed up again. Thought we went through that last year, but negative, Ghost Rider. The main difference in function that makes this thing a fifth the size of this thing is that this has a single pedal that records a single phrase. You record one master loop, and then you put things in on top of each other. I made a diagram. So, you have your one loop that sets the length of your loop, and then you can add layers on top of it, and you can delete your most recent input. So if I have this loop going and I punch in a bunch of layers, when I want to delete it, because I can only delete the last input, I can delete this, but I can't go back and delete this entire second loop. On the other hand, with the big ol' guy, you can record a master loop and then record separate phrases on top of that, which you can then turn on and off as you go. You can save a phrase for later. You can put your, sort of like chorus accessories. Musical parts are now called accessories. You can put your chorus accessories in one and put your verse accessories in another, and then switch between the two to get different textures while still recalling what you worked on previously. However, this one also really aggressively wants to quantize your loops. If you are doing a 16-beat loop and you accidentally go a little bit short, this will automatically add that loop so that you stay in time. And that is real good until you are trying to remember how on earth to do 5/4. With this, you program your time signature in, which I didn't know how to do for the first 8 months that I had this, because manual schmanual, I'm not going to read that, it's too long. Actually, that's not true, I love reading manuals, I just don't know why I didn't do it this one. Back to the loop. This one, when you hit, if it's in 4/4 time, when you hit that you're done with your first loop, it will divide the beats up to make it in whatever time signature it is, which means you can, if you hit your loop a little bit too early or too late, it can change your whole time and you need to start over. Whether or not you like that is sort of a matter of opinion, but with the RC50 you really don't have the option to turn it off. You can turn off the guide track, you can sort of turn off quantize, but boy is it a pain. Anyway, so that's sort of the product review element of it. So now let us go into how does one compose a song for live looping. So there are sort of 4 layers in our texture sandwich. Where is my pen? Did I leave my pen in the other room? I think I left my pen in the other... Oh no, here it is, cool. When you are doing songs, you have your rhythm section. Let's start writing this stuff down. Both of these have backing tracks built in. Your loop pedal might have backing tracks built in. You should probably read the manual, unlike what I did. So it's probably got some kind of backing track built in. If you don't want to use that, if it has the option to input MIDI clock, you can send it in, or you can just get all of your rhythmic elements from your bass. Also, if you have like the vortex with the drum pads, you can do your own. Whatever it is, you need something that sets the rhythmic tone. And it's especially important when you're looping because you don't know where your loop is otherwise, unless you are very good at repeatedly counting to 7 and then 13 in the case of playing like Tool. Don't try to live loop Tool, or... I didn't realize this until I watched a video by a guy called 8-Bit Musical Theory, who I massively recommend, who points out that Ganondorf's theme from Ocarina of Time is in something like 26/4 time. So you have your rhythm track, you need something to pad out or emphasize or give you some chords and backing. Just, this is not exclusively how you write it. I like calling it stabs and pads. That's not correct. It's not just a stabs and pads layer, but pause the video right now and say the words stabs and pads out loud, and you will understand why I like calling it that, because stabs and pads, stabs and pads. So we're gonna write stabs and pads here, but stabs and pads. Also, this is not necessarily the order you have to assemble them in, this is just generally parts you want to sound complete and full. If your bass line is melodic, you might be using your chords or your pads or your stabs and pads to emphasize the root note of that chord. Or if you're doing something with like chordioids, if you're not sure what a chordioid is, 8-Bit Musical Theory taught me what a chordioid is, and it's awesome. Where it's not a real chord, it's just parts of a chord. You've got something like that going on where it's not a complete chord and you need to add another note to make it work in the key signature. That's oftentimes where a stab pad chord comes in. And you might have numerous layers of that. On top of that, you have your melody. If you are looping with vocals, you might have musical melody and vocal melody, or you might set up your musical melody and then sing without including that in your loops. Those 3 things sort of get you the element of texture, and then you can have harmonies on top of the melody. So, fun fact, every time that I'm editing one of these videos and my phone went off while I was recording, I have to stop what I'm doing, find my phone, and see if it was this time. Meanwhile, this is, oh hey, one of my Patreon people got their stickers. Yep, if you join my Patreon, you get stickers too. And cool gift cards. And by gift cards, I mean greeting cards. They're worthless. I don't know why I said gift cards. So, on top of your melody, you can build harmonies. And one of the most cool things about looping is that you can establish a melody and then play a counter melody or a harmony on top of that. And the musical experience people have when they hear the melody, you establish the melody, and then you build harmonies on top of it is just very cool. So now you might say, cool, what else do I need to go looping? Honestly, nothing. Like, if you want to talk about... Oh gosh, I got so distracted I don't remember where I was going. Stabs and pads. It's not about stabs and pads. Musical... Things you need, sort of distinctly different from like guitar looping or vocal looping, is that when you're doing looping with your guitar, you're basically playing one instrument. And that's fine. Maybe you want to play a bass line on your low strings and then do strumming chords and then play a solo on your high-pitched strings, And that gets you all three elements of that and keeps it so that while you're playing your solo, you still have the backing from your bass lines and your chords. That's cool. But I can make my Keytar sound like most instruments. So that gets to, what do I need to have that makes looping more fun? First of all, the fact that you can swap around instruments all the time, super useful. The fact that we have a volume control right on our Keytar, except for this one, which for some reason when you plug it into an amp, the volume control disables. Why? Which is good, because this is usually on the ground and you are usually standing up, so it's kind of hard to get in here. The RC50 does have volume controls for each phrase, but you have to bend down to use them, and if you're wearing petticoats, that's really annoying. Ask me how I know. It can just be completely different instruments, because we're guitarists and we can do what we want. Fuck yeah. Anyway, if you bought the SHS 500, which for the record, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't want to do it. I wouldn't do it, but there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't do that I've done. I don't know where the fuck I put it, but if you want more pedals, if you look at this and you go, I like this, but I want an entire pedal board. But you're like, I need more pedals. I need more pedals. Getting a volume pedal, super handy. I have a Boss equalizer pedal somewhere. Here's a picture of a Boss equalizer pedal so that I don't need to get up and find mine. You can even set it to flat equalization with volume up. And then if you're playing somebody who doesn't have a volume control and you get through all of your setup and want to play your lead, you can just click the equalizer pedal on and it just gets louder. That's basically everything you want. You also probably want a really cool outfit. It's not really, it just feels better emotionally to do your looping pedals with a really cool outfit. But maybe for future videos, when we're looping, if you came here for the fetish foot cam, please let me know. Also, just so you know, if you want to bribe me to do more foot videos, because I am open to that, I have a Cash App, a Venmo, and a PayPal. I actually opened up the Cash App and the Venmo so that I could take mobile payments at the yard sale. That didn't happen. I'm only as annoyed with it as I am because everything went down about 20 minutes ago after a week of me accepting that I was going to be getting rid of a lot of my stuff. Anyway, we are completely derailed right now. Let's go outside because there's no floor in here that I feel comfortable filming, and we are going to attach some pedals to some Keytars and discuss how to manufacture loops. So I screwed up my hand again, and by that I mean I think my job screwed up my hand again. For those of you who don't remember, I had hand surgery last December after getting an injury in February and then having workers' comp mishandle it. So we're back to having workers' comp mishandle it. But in the time that my hand didn't hurt in between December and like 2 months ago, I got into doing this anxiety clap where I'll be stressed out and I clap. Don't do that. So now I have to go back to this and it just doesn't feel the same. It's just not the same. Okay, enough about clapping. Let's go loop. For everyone saying, you shouldn't sell pictures of your feet for YouTube views. Your body is yours and you should respect it instead of selling it. I just want to point out that I destroyed my hand at my job to such an extent that I am now at my yard sale giving away the majority of my guitars and had to switch which instrument I was mainly playing and haven't been able to play my harp for a really long time, and I sold all of that for minimum wage. If you want to pay me more than minimum wage to get pictures of my freaky feet, that's not any morally different from what I've been doing my entire working life. Well, so we're sort of in a place. This frog is being very loud and very disrespectful. that's why you gotta keep track of whether or not you're looping. There we go. Somewhere in there was usable content. So this is the the first thing you put into the looper. This establishes your initial loop. And you basically can't undo it once you've done it. So you get to decide, is this going to be your pad stabs chords, or is this going to be your bass line? So if you have a song that has the same chord progression throughout, but if you're doing it where there is a second movement, which we're going to call a chorus, we're going to pretend this is a pop song, you want your second movement to change. You would want to put your chords on the bottom and then put your bass line ahead of that so that you can change the bass line later. You also have the power to do a prelude before you hit the looping pedal. So you can write your little intro and then set up your loop. Once you have this loop, it loops. And so on this point, you can add your second loop anywhere you really want. You can set it to go here, but you need to remember that it will loop back. So if you start your bass line, or we're gonna say these are chords, and this is bass. And if you start your bass line mid-loop, you're going to have to remember to fill in this spot, or you will have a section without bass. And this does mean you could punch and just have a bass section that takes up part of the loop. You could have it, if you've got 4 bars here, you could have bar 2 and 3 have a bass line, and then bars 4 and 1 not have your bass line. You can build that, and as long as you have not put another thing on top of this bass line, you can take it off and change it because you can edit the last input. So now you have your chords and your bass, and you can decide if you want your melody to exist on top of or concurrent with the other loops. Where you add this melody in your loops also can affect how your song goes. You can let this play for several loops before you add your melody. And also you can add, if you want to add pads and stabs up here on top of your bass and your chords, or something like that, or you want to add a little bingly bob that comes in at a certain point, you can add all of that, and then you have your basic mix. After which you're going to want to add your melody. So your melody can exist on top of that. You can have this part loop over and over while your melody exists outside of that. You can change your bass and take it off and put it back on as you play. Or you can take the melody and you can have the melody exist inside of the loop. Now you have a separate discrete loop. So you can have your loop play, and then you put your melody in here, and then you punch it into your loop right here. You now have a section of melody that's part of the loop, and when you come around, that section of melody is still there. So you could play not looping or not inputting your melody again, and then when you get back to this part where you punched in the melody, you can add a harmony on top of your melody. That's the basic functions of how this works. And then you can remove your most recent input. So you could take the harmony away, but you need to remember that with a single pedal, you build, and once you put something on top of that last layer, you can't take it back off. And looping is largely about starting with something simple and then adding onto it. And when you build a song like that, you need to remember that if you only have one phrase, what you're doing gets cemented down underneath. And you need to consider that while you're composing. Cool, so I'm gonna go clean this mess up and then edit this. This is a quick reminder that if you like this video and you want more videos with my feet in them or something, that's almost entirely a joke. Unless it gets me a lot of views, in which case it's not a joke. If you like this video and you want to help me make more, there's Patreon. You can also just subscribe and like the video because that's free, but you don't get stickers for doing it. This month's stickers is going to be whatever one I make plus this picture of my cat's face, And this one, I had to name this file Jaggedy Midnight Buttlick on Ska, and that's going to be in my computer forever, so if you want that sticker, it's terrible, and I know it's terrible, but you can join the Patreon army. Army? I don't like calling you guys an army. Oh dear, when I realized that I had like 8 minutes left to do this end slate, I just didn't plan anything. I guess I should go film the cat. That's usually how I end these. Let's go find the cat, and then we'll clean up this. I could probably stop the foot cam recording now, couldn't I? I just want to say, zero thanks at all to the Roland Lucina for deciding that it... Ow, don't undo the camera mount with your bad thumb, Gausewitz. Don't do that. Thank the Roland Lucina for, only having 21 minutes of battery life. Unless it's on good quality rechargeables. Where's my kitty? Be under the couch? Mids. Be in the YouTube. I swear this channel used to have a cat in it. She's under there. Ow.